All right, now I'm hitting start webinar on my side. Good.
Good.
I think I'm turning off this other screen. Yeah. All right. Hello. Welcome. Thanks everybody for coming. I'm going to put a question in the chat for you all that we can answer as we're coming in. Jessica already put, where are you dialing in from? If you don't mind us also asking about your role, that would be interesting, I think, and make us be able to adapt the content to who you all are. And then I'm going to put a little question in there that actually Lisa on our team has taught me is a really good question to ask as we open up something, which is, what is something small that brings you unreasonable joy? I'm going to put that in the chat.
Are you in presentation mode?
I am. Can you see it or no?
I can see your next slide too, so I'm a little worried you're
Okay, good. Got it. Let me do something else.
there we go.
Okay.
That looks
That's
right.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Pro tip, when I turned off my monitor, it went back to the other monitor. So now we're good.
Okay.
Something small that brings you unreasonable joy. Examples that we have heard are stickers, hotel robes. Christy, welcome. I'm going to say that the thing that brings me unreasonable joy is rainbows. Oh, 9 pound dog. Put a picture in the chat if you have one, Christy. Welcome, Christy. Justine, Sunshine, 100%. Sugary cereal? Jessica, I had no idea.
I'm a secret sugary cereal fan. I don't eat it very often, but boy, do I love it.
I love
Amazing.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, so I'm with you there.
Fruit Loops,
Very good.
all that stuff.
Love it.
Gel
Great.
pens.
Yeah.
I
All right.
see Julia Vulcan is in the house. Hi, Julia.
All right. Welcome for anybody new who is coming in. We are putting name, role, where you're calling in from, and what is something small that brings you unreasonable joy.
I see Joe Essex, Jana Rolston. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, hey, thanks for joining. I see somebody in the DC area, so that's where I am too. Welcome, Shanda.
Yeah, heat is on today.
Is it for everybody in North Carolina too? Not for
I had
Lisa
the,
in Austin, sorry.
I was gonna say no, still air conditioning.
I had the door open for a while this morning, and that was a little, it was maybe this afternoon I can do that again, but it was a little chilly this morning.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, it does finally feel like fall in the DC, Northern Virginia, Southern Maryland for you, Joe, area.
Mhm.
All right, we're at 12 o'clock Eastern. So I think I'm going to give it one more minute and then we'll jump into the content if that sounds okay to everybody.
Sounds great. Hi, Tanya. Hi, Marcella. Hi, Lisa. Katie Wiesel.
Welcome, everybody.
Blanky. Welcome, everybody. It's great.
All right, so anybody who's just joined, name, role, location in the chat, and what is something small that brings you unreasonable joy? Thanks, everybody, for introducing yourself in the chat. We appreciate it. Oh boy, dogs are getting all the votes today. It is true about dogs. Oh, Teresa's also in DC area. Hey, Teresa. I know Katie's also in DC area. Marcella, it looks like, where are you in Maryland? I guess everywhere in Maryland is almost close to DC.
It's not a very big state.
Not like Virginia, where you could be like way in the south and not even remotely connected to DC.
Maybe closer to North Carolina than DC in Virginia. Hi, Brian. Nice to see you
Hey,
here.
Brian. Okay, north of Baltimore City. Cool. Thanks, Marcella. Hi, Lisa Wilson. Good to see you.
Andrew Icall. Nice to see you. Bryn, Christopher. This is great. Love it.
All right, I'm going to post this one more time for anybody who just came in. Name, role, and location in the chat when you have a chance, and then feel free to drop in something that small that brings you unreasonable joy. If we're polling, dogs are currently winning for the unreasonable joy. Sugary cereal is on the list, but not winning.
No one's willing to be as vulnerable as me with their love of things that aren't healthy or age appropriate.
Well, let's get started. Welcome, everybody, to this awesome webinar on group and team coaching. We think that the title, More Fun and Effective Than a Trust Fall, is a pretty good one, as we all have played a million different games in all kinds of ways. And we want to just talk about how group and team coaching can also offer something to the folks at your organization. Before I jump in, I want to make sure that we introduce everybody that's on our Sparks Group team here. So my name is Anna Sparks. You may think that I am the owner of the Sparks Group, but I am not. I am actually the Chief Operating Officer. I'm also a coach and a facilitator myself. And Jessica Bronzert, who I'm going to hand it over to in a second, is our CEO. And she started the company and she knew she was going to hire me when she started it like 12 years ago. So she named it after me. Go ahead, Jessica.
I don't know what to say after that awesome handoff. It's just total synchronicity, although Anna did have a leg up in the interview process because of her name, but that's not why she got the job. But we're delighted to have all of you here. You can tell that the name of the webinar and kind of our frame of mind this morning is here to have a good time, learn something, and we're just delighted that you decided to spend an hour with us, your lunch hour, or if it's another part of the day for you. Thanks so much for taking the time. We're glad to have you here.
Okay, also on our team, we have the spectacular Lisa Thompson. If anyone's having any challenges in the webinar, you can message her directly. She's going to be running all the polls. She made a lot of this look really nice. So Lisa, you want to say a couple words?
Yep, I said hello in the chat, but it's nice to see you all. Excited to be here. I'm the ops specialist at the Sparks Group, and I'm even going to be learning something this morning as well. So hope you enjoy it.
All right, with that, let us get rolling. So today we're going to talk through kind of what do we think about when we think of the spectrum of options in the coaching space, what group and team coaching are specifically, the pros and cons of each, when to use each of them, and then we're going to do some sample scenarios of teams or groups that either we've coached or kind of a client team that we've interacted with that this could be a right approach for. And then I hope at the end we'll have some time for Q&A. I think we will. So just before we dive into me talking a lot about this, can you guys drop into the chat kind of what comes to your mind when you hear the word coaching? What are some, I mean, a lot of you on this chat are coaches or have experience in coaching, I can see. So what's kind of your experience with coaching? What words or word would you put in the chat? Brian's got growth catalyst, empowerment, aha moments, helping leaders develop. Okay. Thinking differently, good one. Guidance, powerful questions, deep listening, transformation. Hi, Angela. I didn't say hi to you. Support growth and self-awareness, supporting my client, developing others. Awesome. Yeah. And all of that is in this kind of big paragraph that I've put here, which you can probably read every word when we send out the recording later. Just about kind of how coaching supports change, really puts the onus in the hands of the individual or the people that are participating in coaching. It's inspiring. It allows time for reflection, and really allows us to expand our capacities to the maximum. So I think you guys are all right on the same page about that. Briefly, let's talk for a second about one-on-one coaching, which I think is something that most of us have a good understanding of. So, as you know, one-on-one coaching is really a discovery process. We're helping clients find creative solutions to challenges in their life, think about challenges in different ways than maybe they've had an opportunity to before. Coaches really ask powerful, clarifying questions and use inquiry, curiosity, and a little bit of gentle pushing or provocation to help clients stretch into their best capacities. In one-on-one coaching, goals are typically defined by the client with input from the organization if the organization is participating in the coaching. Lisa, will you do me a favor and drop the link for the What is Leadership Coaching resource into the chat? This is something that you can grab and kind of use as a reference for how might you define coaching. Okay, sorry about that. So obviously, strengths and limitations. Any coaching model has strengths and limitations. For one-on-one coaching, the best things about it are that it's really tailored. So you can get it to fit exactly what someone needs at exactly the right time in exactly their context. It's confidential. So what's happening in coaching or with assessments that are associated with the coaching engagement are shared only between the individual participating in coaching and their selected coach. And it's really focused. The individual in coaching gets to say what is the time is being spent on. And they're really working hard directly on exactly what they need at the time. Limitations to coaching, obviously, are cost. If we're providing any service one-on-one to people, that's a higher cost than providing it to a group or in another way. The reach is relatively limited. I've yet to see an organization that provides one-on-one coaching to every single person in their organization, but I don't think it's a bad idea for those organizations who have that as a possibility. And typically in these one-on-one coaching engagements, there's not necessarily a built-in opportunity for shared experience. So talking about what coaching means, how they might bring it to other people in their organization, kind of that consistency across engagements can be harder to achieve. So you're missing out a little bit on those things. The reason I wanted to set that up for you is because we have alternatives that can be used and have really great impact as well, in addition to one-on-one coaching. So first one I'd love to talk about is group coaching. So group coaching is when we have individuals that are coached together, and the idea is they're all learning through their own and their group members' insights together. So typically we see folks at the same level in group coaching, or they might share another common characteristic. I'll talk about a couple of examples of types of groups in a minute. The emphasis in group coaching is on individual learning. So the idea is that you as an individual are taking something away from the group coaching, but you're doing it in a supportive peer type level setting. It really encourages a lot of cross-functional learning. So if I am an engineer and I'm in peer coaching with a whole bunch of managers, and there's a manager who works in legal, that manager who works in legal is going to understand about my world as an engineer because they've heard my challenges in group coaching. And the same thing, I'm going to understand more about their world and how they operate because of their participation in my group. Each person in the group will have their own goals. They don't have to all have the exact same goal. And they are ultimately, as individuals, accountable for their own development, the same way that we see in one-on-one coaching. Also, another thing that sometimes you can see that in is peer coaching. So we're really at the individual level here with a lot of opportunity to learn more broadly about the organization and collaboration. So how does it work? It works typically, and you can always flex these things depending on the needs of the organization and kind of the group that you're working with. It's around 5 to 7 participants per group. It's always facilitated by a coach, and usually the sessions are about 90 minutes to 2 hours. Not like a typical coaching session, which you might have experienced as 45 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour. These are usually longer, so there's more space for each person to be able to share. So how it usually works is the coach comes together with the group, everyone kind of checks in at the beginning, kind of establishes where we are today, and then each person gets the same amount of time to bring whatever their issue or challenge is that day and ask for support from the group. So other participants might offer their own experiences. They might be offering some powerful questions, and they can even give advice in group coaching. And the coach is playing that facilitation role, also adding in some powerful questioning, a little bit of provocation to help the person expand. And then as we get toward the end, everyone kind of checks out. So we have a nice opening and then closing at the end. When you think about the groups that most benefit from this kind of coaching, we think about groups like emerging leaders, right? A lot of times those might be sort of peer level-ish folks across various parts of an organization. It can be really great in high potential talent programs, things like peer-to-peer learning networks, ERGs, employee resource groups. We've done this kind of thing with employee resource groups that might be for women's group, people of color, caregivers. So they might not be all at the same level in the organization, but by some common thread, they are having a similar experience. Great for leadership cohorts, and great for departmental or other functional groups. So when might you say, okay, this is the right time to use group coaching? Let me consider that as an option. The first one is money. I don't have enough money to offer all this coaching one-on-one to all of the people in my Emerging Leaders program, but I want to offer them coaching. I want them to understand what coaching is. Group coaching is a great option in that case. When you have a group of folks, and no single training class can meet everyone's needs. So we're not just talking about people needing to get better at feedback, but we're talking about maybe somebody needing to get better at feedback and somebody that's working on accountability and the nuances of people's different departments or roles. That's a good time to consider group coaching rather than a, 1 or 2 hour workshop. When folks have different developmental needs or priorities, again, across departments based on their role, based on their level. When the organization wants to build a coaching culture, this is a really good way to do it because it's a way to bring a lot of coaching to a lot of people. So everyone gets familiar with what coaching is, how it works, what do these questions sound like, what's the way I can learn and grow in coaching. So that's a really nice way to do it. A lot of times they're able to bring that then to their team members, which is a really nice follow-on effect of group coaching. And when leaders across the organization need to be more collaborative and interdependent. So this is where we're really talking about the ability of group coaching to encourage collaboration, breaking down silos. That's one of the huge benefits that we see from group coaching. So let's do a little sample here. This was a program that we did for a technology organization that does a lot of their contracting to the US government. So the program was roughly this. It was 6 months. We did, your typical kickoff kind of program launch. We did discovery conversations with everyone. We had a 2-day workshop where we started. And then we began to go into group coaching sessions where they were then complemented by one-on-one coaching too. And that's something that you might see as well as kind of what can I gain from the group, but then what might be better for me to work on specifically one-on-one with a coach. So we can put these things together. It doesn't have to be just group coaching or just one-on-one coaching. So let's do a quick summary of strengths and limitations of group coaching. And then I want to hand it to Jessica to share a little bit more about a case study around a client that we worked with providing group coaching. So as I've already talked about, super scalable. Group coaching is relatively affordable, very scalable. It promotes the coaching culture. cultivates interdependence between organizations, and really helps people build relationships. Imagine being in a coaching conversation and kind of having that openness with others at your same level. It's a really great way to build trust across people in different groups. It is less tailored. Let's be honest. If Jessica, Lisa, and I and a couple other folks are in group coaching, Jessica's going to focus on one thing, Lisa's going to focus on another thing, I'm going to focus on a third thing. It's not going to be just what I want to focus on always. There might be some group dynamics at play, which can be tricky, right? Maybe somebody who's taking over the conversation, or a couple people who ended up in a group but don't necessarily trust each other for some reason. And then that can be a little bit tricky to deal with in group coaching. It does require a coach that is trained to do this and has experience in group coaching and facilitation. So as we get with any group, having the facilitator that can guide the conversation to help manage some of those group dynamics, make sure that everyone's getting what they need out of the session becomes really important. And it's not confidential. So once you have 5 to 7 people plus a coach in the room, the coach is going to keep everything confidential, but people don't have the same level of confidence that others in the room will keep everything that's been said confidential. So that can limit people a little bit on what they're willing to share in coaching. Jessica, I'm going to invite you to add anything you want to what I just said, and then walk through this case study for folks, if you will.
Yeah, no, I think that that's really great. I love everything that you shared about group coaching. And I think the thing that I would probably emphasize is sort of the interdependence and the coaching culture that can come out of it, is that the experience of being in group coaching is realizing that the challenges that you experience are pretty common. I think most coaches who do a lot of one-on-one coaching would, I get asked the question all the time, what issues do you see the most? And I say, well, my sort of general response to that is that the human experience is remarkably universal, right? The context may vary. Our particular emotional journey around that may vary, but sort of the things that we experience as human beings living on planet Earth are remarkably common. And when people have the opportunity to participate in group coaching, they realize that they're far less alone than maybe they thought they were. Their experience is less unique than they thought it was, and that they really can benefit from opening up and receiving help and asking for help and helping other people in the group coaching setting. So I just wanted to emphasize that a little bit more. I'd love to take any questions if you want to throw them in the chat or raise your hand. Well, we can't see your hand. So if you want to throw it in the chat, we certainly could answer some questions about group coaching while I talk about this case study.
Jessica,
yeah.
sorry not to interrupt you. We do have 2 questions in the Q&A feature.
Oh, great. What are they?
All right, so the first one's a little lengthy, so bear with me.
Okay.
I find that the more senior the exec, the less likely they are to be truly transparent and vulnerable, enough to really make an impact. Have you observed different seniority levels at which group coaching may be more effective or beneficial than others? Think organizations above 70,000 or 300,000, non-manufacturing, not a distributed model of operation, not a franchise.
That is a very specific question. Is this to say who that's coming from, or is it anonymous?
No, it's anonymous.
Okay, great question. Love the specificity. Anna, do you want to tackle that, or you want me to tackle it?
Yeah, I would say you're keying in on something that is important, which is why this kind of common characteristic or common level is really important in group coaching. So, for example, if we had a group where one of the group members was senior to the other, or like the team leader, we wouldn't recommend group coaching in that case, because the team leader, exactly like you're saying, is not transparent. They can't be open in the way that they might be able to be in one-on-one coaching, or even group coaching with members of that person's cohort. Right? So if you can get group coaching for senior leaders, let's say across the organization, if that makes sense for the organization, which it would for a large organization as you're referring to, or potentially we see group coaching used also across organizations. So CEOs from multiple organizations will opt into a group coaching model run outside of their organization so that they can share that CEO experience, because they most likely would not be in a scenario where group coaching within their organization would be the right move for them. I don't think that I would say, and Jessica, I invite you to disagree with me here, that there are criteria as specific as you're putting in your question. I do think the organization has to be relatively big enough, right? An organization of 10, you might say, wait, is this really the right approach? But once you get to 50 plus, maybe 30 plus, typically you have people at different levels, and you have, multiple groups, and groups are sharing different characteristics. So typically in those scenarios, it works. Um, the other thing I would say is at play here is the culture of the organization. So to what extent is the organization really hierarchical, and how might that play into what people are willing to offer in group coaching? And is the culture of the organization extremely competitive? So we've had multiple clients where the culture is so competitive that they decide not to do group coaching because the people that they want to, offer coaching to are all competing with each other. And then that is not the right scenario for group coaching, because it doesn't allow people to be open and transparent, because they're all kind of trying to show their best face because they're competing with each other.
Yeah.
Jessica, what would you add?
I like all of that. I think the only thing I would add is that, and this is a gross generalization, but I think in general, the higher you go in the organization, the more likely you are to see one-on-one coaching be the preferred modality. Like there's more of a willingness to invest at a greater degree for a more senior leader, or team coaching, right? So if you've got a team or a group of peers, which we're going to talk about next, you might be more likely to see those two kinds of intervention at more senior levels versus a group coaching, or they're going to go outside. Think of like a Vistage or a YPO or some of these organizations that are really built on a group coaching model that are for peers from different organizations to do that. So I love that. I love the question. Yeah. What's the other one, Lisa?
So we have a question from Teresa. Can you touch on the competencies that enable group coaching that might not be as relevant to one-on-one coaching, facilitation, conflict management, etc.?
Ooh,
Teresa,
that's
I'm
a
assuming you're talking about the competencies in the facilitator coach, or are you talking about the competencies in the participants? You can go ahead and throw that in the chat. But the competencies for the person who is coaching,
coach,
uh,
she says. Yeah.
coach, okay. Competencies for the person who's coaching, I think actually one of the most important ones that we don't talk about a lot, but Jessica highlights for me a lot because I like to fit a lot into a short amount of time, is time management, being able to facilitate the conversation so that each person gets their allotted time and is really able to explore their issue. And I think that that's a lot harder than we think it might be. And in group coaching, that's really important, because if you walk away from the group coaching having been cut off or not had enough time, or somebody else took up half of it, that really doesn't create quite the feeling that you want people to be getting out of group coaching.
Yeah.
Facilitation skills for sure at play. Jessica, what do you want to add?
I was just going to say, it feels like a meta skill of being able to balance your coaching, your facilitation, your time management. Like, how do you actually bring all of those skills together in the right mix to create the outcome that's going to work really well for the participants? Like, I think Anna's, there's sort of a step up of like, when do I need to put on my time management hat? When do I need to put on my facilitation hat? When do I need to ask a coaching question? Like I think that decision about which skill to bring forward in group coaching is a I don't know, that's what comes to mind for me listening to your question.
Yeah. And I think this ability to draw themes across people, which I think is typically a facilitation skill, sometimes you put it in your coaching skill set, um, is also important, because you're trying to emphasize, as Jessica talked about, how do we have a shared experience? How are we similar? How does, the way that other people are doing things similar or different than my way?
Yeah, creating a safe space, right? The psychological safety for people to be as open as they can be in that setting. So I see your question, Winky, about finding a day and time that suits 5 to 7 people. That's never easy. The logistical part of it is always challenging. I did see a really amazing experience of this. This was somebody else facilitating. I was in the room supporting, so I can't take credit for this, but I thought it was amazing. They said, we're going to schedule it right now in the room. They were leaving their workshop. They were scheduling their first group coaching session. They made the participants get out their calendars in the room, and they set the times for all three. They were going to have three group coaching sessions, and they landed it in 15 minutes flat with like 15 people. I was shocked. That may not be the case all the time, but Yeah, that's definitely a logistical, we should have put that on the limitations. Maybe the logistics of group coaching can be the scheduling. So
I like the addition. I'm going to do that.
yeah. Well, let me talk a little bit about this case study. Hopefully you've had a chance to maybe read this while we've been answering questions. This actually was way early in my career, and I was supporting on this one. I wasn't leading this one. It was really my first exposure to group coaching. So I always think about it when I think about group coaching. But I was helping to support a program for actually leaders at a couple different levels in the organization. So it was a mixed crowd, which was kind of interesting, but ended up working really well. The way the groups were formed, we made sure that there were no reporting relationships or anything kind of awkward. The human resources folks kind of helped make sure that there wouldn't be any sort of conflicts or people feeling uncomfortable. Like many of these things, we started out with 2 days of a really intense in-person experience that was built on the leadership circle profile. And then we did group coaching on a monthly cadence. Each participant was getting one-on-one coaching. And this group coaching was a little bit of a hybrid of training and group coaching. So these were 90-minute sessions. I can't remember how many people we put in a group. It was definitely no more than 7. It might have been a little bit on the smaller side because we only really left 60 minutes for the group coaching part. And we started with a little bit of content dripping. So part of it was, what additional topics do we need to build on from the first 2 days? What interests do you have? We wanted to be responsive to their ongoing learning needs and not just stay anchored to the original 2 days for the whole time that we were together. So we brought in a new kind of like mini topic at the beginning of each group coaching session, had a little bit of teach and discussion, and then we dropped into the group coaching and saying, okay, where are you? What are you working on? What do you need help with? And did that. And everybody had an individual development goal, at least one, that they were working on as a result of the 360 that they took. This was a large manufacturing organization that was really distributed across these participants were all in the United States, but they were in different functions and in different geographies. And a lot of them knew each other's names, but they had never met and they had never worked together before. And one of the major things that the organization wanted to work on was reducing sort of duplication of effort and to promote the sharing of best practices across the functions and the geographies. So as these participants were able to get to know each other, to build trust with each other, they started to realize that a lot of them had their own sort of side projects going on in their own functional areas or in their own geographies that were also being replicated, or that they wanted to kind of pick that up somewhere else. And so the number of times that we heard, I'm going to call you afterwards because I want to hear more about that, or I really think we can use that in my part of the business. That was one of the things they specifically wanted to tackle. And this program did a beautiful job of sort of helping create new informal relationships and networks across the organization, as well as sort of normalizing the development journey, right? That idea that we're all on a journey and everybody's got stuff to work on, reducing the isolation and the loneliness and promoting the universality of our journey. This program was a really wonderful, wonderful example of that. So the other thing that I think you get out of this example that Anna's kind of been talking about, but maybe hasn't said explicitly, is that group coaching can stand on its own as a modality. And it works really well when you wrap other things around it, like a 2-day workshop, like assessments, like one-on-one coaching. So you really can kind of plug and play group coaching in a lot of different cool ways with other things that you're doing inside an organization.
Mm-hmm.
Joe has a question. How does the coaching agreement cover confidentiality since it's a group setting, and does the group set their own agreement? Great question, Joe. So yes, you do try and promote confidentiality in the group setting, sort of a what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? That's a big part of setting group coaching up to be successful. So yes, and generally I think that works well. And I think, as Anna pointed out, there's just going to be a little bit more hesitation about that, maybe a little bit more worry about that than there would be in a one-on-one setting. So we did want to point out that there is a little bit of a giveaway, right? Maybe in the psychological safety in the group setting, even though you really still focus a lot on confidentiality. I think you can kind of dictate that to the group if you want to. You can also kind of do have them come up with their own norms, and confidentiality would be one of them. So I think both of those are really, really good options. Great question, Joe.
We have another anonymous question.
Okay.
Can you share pricing for group coaching? Understanding that programs can be customized, what's the general participant or program cost?
Yeah, so I'll take this one. I don't think we're going to get into pricing today, because it really varies on. I'll give some context. I'm not going to say numbers, I guess is what I want to say. I think it depends how you're packaging it and how you're selling it. And it really is going to be bespoke to the organization. So if it's part of a larger program, it's going to get wrapped up in that versus if you're doing it individually. So yeah, thanks for that question. You want to take Lisa's question, Anna?
Sure. Um, so Lisa, there's a couple of ways to integrate what the organization needs from the coaching engagement and the outcomes that the organization is looking for. I think one of them you might have seen in that sample group coaching schedule that I shared, and that is having a really solid kickoff with everybody who has a stake in the group coaching. So if you're going to offer groups of coaching, let's say to emerging leaders in your organization, you might consider bringing their direct supervisors into that kickoff to say, this is how coaching works. This is what we can do in coaching. Allow those supervisors or other representatives from the organization in that kickoff to express what they might like to see out of the group coaching engagement. The other thing that you can do, which Jessica was talking about, is create something at the front end of the group coaching, like a 1 or 2 day workshop. So you're really getting everyone kind of focused on the areas of leadership, like competencies, for example, that you might be wanting people to build, and asking them purposely to bring those kinds of challenges into the group coaching environment. So definitely organizational input is really important in group coaching, as it also is in one-on-one coaching. So I think a lot of you all know that our model at the Sparks Group is always to do that initial meeting, the kickoff with the person who's participating in coaching, their sponsor, typically direct supervisor, and then HR is always invited. So kind of at the front end, we're saying to everybody, how do you all want this to go? What does this look like from your perspective as the client? What does this look like from your perspective as the sponsor? What are the outcomes that we're looking for in this coaching engagement? And that helps to align everyone at the beginning around what the time will be used for, et cetera. All right. Are we good on questions? Lisa, we're good? Okay. All right, so let's quickly, if you can identify a group within your organization or one that you're familiar with, somewhere else in your life or another organization you previously worked with, that would benefit from group coaching. So if you can get one of those in your mind roughly, what specific outcomes do you think would be really important for them? What would you envision?
Go ahead and jot that in the chat.
Just throw it in the chat.
Should we hum the Jeopardy theme song? Do, do, do.
I don't understand why you don't have your music ready to play. You usually have music.
I do. I'm sorry. Can pretend I'm Alex Trebek or Ken Jennings.
Anybody have a group within their organization that they can think of? You don't necessarily have to reveal the group to us because we know you might not want to share that in the chat. But what's the outcome you might be looking for from group coaching? Okay,
Oh,
academia professors, I love this idea so much. My brother is an academic, and we talk all the time about like leadership in academia for professors. Understanding each other.
that Kelly, that sounds like that might work well for team coaching too. I'll be curious what you think about that.
Mhm. Oh, senior directors in the fashion industry. Brian, tell us more. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it does.
Leadership skills in leading in a high-paced and ever-changing environment. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Cohesion, stress relief, shared vision. Okay. Best practices, management styles. Oh, where we teach our managers to be more coach-like. Love that. That's a really good one.
There's
Yep,
that coaching culture.
totally. Retention development for underrepresented groups of leaders, okay, or individual contributors. Yeah, these are all great. These are all great. Let us turn our attention to team coaching. And I want to kind of compare and contrast some of the things that some of the groups that you guys are thinking about using group coaching for, what the outcomes you think they'll get, and the group that you might think about using team coaching for, and then those outcomes. So let's move on to that. Thank you guys for dropping that in the chat. Super helpful to hear what use this might have for you all. So team coaching is really different in that we're focusing on an intact team here. So this is not a group of individuals the way that we would look at group coaching. It's the whole team that we're focusing on. They're the focus of the change, the improvement. And the interesting thing about team coaching is the team leader is almost always, I'm going to say 99% of the time, it is like really practically always participating in one-on-one coaching while the team coaching is occurring. So, as you can imagine, as a whole team goes through coaching, one of the big drivers of how successful that team coaching is how bought in the team leader is to it and how much they can encourage all of the behaviors and the ways of working that the team has agreed upon. So, that's kind of the reason that they typically do have a one-on-one coach who can help them stay focused on what they're trying to achieve within their team and in the team coaching engagement. So when we use team coaching, it's typically when the team is the unit of work. So the interdependence between the folks is really, really high. And I think Jessica actually alluded to this. Like we can have a totally intact team as we think about it. We can also have a team where like a leader and their direct reports, but we can also have a scenario in which we have leaders of different companies across an organization or departments across an organization more broadly, where the interdependence between them is extremely high. They're all at the same level. They need to function as a team, and they might not necessarily be doing that, but they need to, somebody put this in the chat, have a shared vision, be communicating in the same way, improve performance across that set of people. There might be clear goals for the team, like the team knows what they want to do, but they can't figure out how to do it. That's a scenario in which team coaching can be really, really helpful to crystallize that. The team might be at an inflection point. So you might have a new team, new leader. There might be some conflict amongst the team. There might be a big change that they're trying to shepherd through the organization, or a big transition that they're trying to navigate through. That's a good time typically for team coaching. And also, we're looking for sustained change, not just quick fixes. So this actually came up with a client a couple of days ago who came initially and said, okay, I think I want a workshop for this team because there's a big challenge with trust here. And when we got into the details, it turned out that the culture of this team has been in the way that it has been for a while, and they're looking to significantly change the way that they operate, not just teach people something like how to give feedback. And so in that case, we said, how about the leadership team, which in this case was the vice president and three directors? Why don't we start with them around team coaching and some team alignment? That's going to make any kind of culture change much more successful in the long run and give these leaders the ability to bring it to others in the organization instead of trying to teach everyone how to do it and have that potentially fizzle. So application is a lot around team effectiveness, um, organizational change, sometimes performance recovery or repair. If you've had kind of a dip in the leadership team performance or the company performance, this is a good way to turn it around a lot of times. When you have a set of leaders on a team who might not all have the level of leadership capability that you're looking for from your leaders, this also can work to kind of bring everybody up a level in their leadership. And this also can be really helpful for remote and hybrid teams. So thinking about how do we work together in this kind of environment, which I think we typically think can be more challenging than working in an in-person environment as a team. So the impacts that we see, of course, it can be more than this depending on the team and their context, but a lot of times we see a lot stronger collaboration amongst a team. There's clearer roles for people, individuals on the team, and goals for the team, both individually and as a collective group. Cohesion and trust. Anytime you spend that time amount of time with folks and you're really focused on your relationship, that's going to build. And of course, improve business performance and outcomes. I think every single one of us has worked in an organization where we said something like, if the leader or the leadership team could just get this thing right, we could really take off, right? Or if they could just steer this in the right direction, we could really take off. And so there's a lot of opportunity when you can get your leadership team aligned and working really, really well together. All right, so I showed you a schedule for like a group coaching, how that might work. Team coaching is a little more complex. Yeah, typically we're doing about 6 to 12 months in a team coaching engagement. And the first phase, I like hesitated around putting contracting as the first phase, but I'm going to tell you why I left it in here. I left it in here because this phase in which we architect how this team coaching engagement is going to go, and everybody agrees on the approach and the role of the team leader and how the sponsor will engage is so important to setting this up for success. And so as you think about even the proposal around how are we going to offer team coaching, both for the organization and for the group that's offering the team coaching, that contracting phase is so crucial to get everybody on the same page. Then we have the initial part of the engagement in phase two. We're typically having conversations with people on the team, either in groups or as individuals. A lot of times we're using an assessment. That assessment could be something like a 360 for each individual on the team, and then we're kind of putting that together in a team report. It could be something around a personality or motivation. It could be a team diagnostic, kind of how aligned are we together. There's a whole bunch of different assessments that you can use in team coaching. And then a lot of times you're presenting that data from the assessments or potentially other data that you might get through employee engagement surveys, customer surveys, strategic plans, performance metrics, et cetera, to help that team prioritize what they want to be working on in team coaching. They define the roadmap for themselves as a team. And then the development work with the team begins, as does the coaching with the team leader. So that's all starting. Sometimes the coaching with the team leader, this is why there's an asterisk, can actually start earlier than the team coaching, depending on the dynamics of the team. If the leader kind of needs to get themselves to a place where they're ready for this, that might start a little bit ahead of time before the engagement with the team goes. During the ongoing coaching time, what we are typically doing is having the coach, what we say, ride along with the team while they do their work. So that means that the coach is present in team meetings. Typically, those meetings might be extended by about 50%. So let's say the team meeting is typically an hour, it will go to 90 minutes, because what the coach will be doing during that team meeting is saying, time out. I just saw Jessica and Lisa do something that we talked about that the team didn't want to do that anymore. It seemed like Jessica just conceded without telling Lisa how she actually felt. Jessica and Lisa, what do you all want to do about that? Or Jessica, might I encourage you to share what your perspective on the challenge is? So the coach is kind of encouraging these behaviors and getting the team to adopt them and feel safe with each other to be able to do that. Once you get towards the end of the team coaching phase, you really work together to decide on what are the next steps for the team. So you can decide with the team that they've achieved their goals, they're where they want to be, and you can close it out. Or you can decide that there's these certain other things that they might want to do to expand their impact as a team or as individual leaders. You do a debrief with the leadership team, the sponsor, et cetera, and kind of determine what's next for the group. Let me talk about strengths and limitations, and then I'm going to look at the chat and we'll take Q&A really quick. So real strengths of this one is it happens in the context of the team's work. I love occasions in which I can tag on to something that is already existing exactly for the scheduling reason that came up before, Like, let's just put this into existing work. It really helps it to get ingrained in the way that people are interacting and helps with a lot of those scheduling challenges and getting people's attention as you need to. It builds a lot of safety and interdependence between the members of the leadership team or the team that's participating. And it has this significant potential for impact, which exceeds a lot of the other options that we have at the table. You can imagine if you have an aligned leadership team, what a huge difference that that could make within an organization. Some of the limitations are that you really need this one individual, the team leader, to buy in. Without that buy-in, team coaching is not going to be all that successful. So there may be some need to work with that team leader on the front end to get them to a point where they really feel like team coaching would be the right option for their team. Any challenges with the structure or the design of the team holistically? Like actually, as we're looking at the org chart, right? Typically not fixed with coaching. So if you have problems with who's empowered or the way that departments are structured or something like that, that can kind of come into play in the team coaching. So you have to be really aware of that. Team dynamics also can prevent an engagement from succeeding. This is part of what a team coach needs to be really good at and really skilled at if we're going back to their capabilities. They need to be good at figuring out those interpersonal challenges. But sometimes you have two folks who are always going to clash, can never quite come together for whatever reasons. Um, and then lastly, this is a relatively big investment, right? The team is giving a lot of time to team coaching and a lot of focus on their team and the development of the team. And for that reason, it's expensive. The coach is spending a lot of time with folks. Folks are spending a lot of time really trying to level themselves up as a team. So
And
let's,
this is, I would just add that if you're the coach doing this, this is at the top of your game for most people. This is really hard work to do. I don't think that everyone can do it. It's intimidating. This kind of work can be really difficult. So I think that's part of the value proposition here is it really requires a skilled coach.
Mhm.
Yep. Looks like there's some Q&A that Lisa can probably read to you, and then there's a couple in the chat. Lisa, do you want to pull out the Q&A questions first?
So those are the old questions.
Oh, they're the old ones.
Yep, the
Okay.
only questions we have are the ones in the chat.
Okay, let
So
me get,
I just want to highlight Brian's comment because I think it's great. Brian says one of the great things about group and team coaching is that the bottom line is application, just as in one-on-one. In my mind, this makes it a much higher ROI than traditional learning programs. I could not agree more. I think that's partly why we wanted to do a webinar on this, is that I think a lot of organizations don't know that these modalities exist. They kind of feel like either there's training programs or there's one-on-one coaching. I'm sort of simplifying it a little bit, but I think that group and team coaching really expand the range of options beyond let's put people in a room and teach them about delegation or whatever the thing is that we think is the issue. So I just love your comment, Brian. I'll read Kelly's question out to you, Anna, and maybe you want to take a stab at it. If the leader doesn't feel she has time to participate in one-on-one coaching in addition to the team coaching, what are the 2 to 3 reasons you would give to highlight the importance of the one-on-one?
yeah, that is a really great question. And I want to give a couple reasons, and then I want to just give a little client service caveat. So I think the couple of reasons that I would give is I think I see in team leaders a lot a lack of understanding of how much their behavior, what they say, and how they lead impacts their team. They kind of oftentimes see themselves as like a peer and like we're just a group of leaders working on this together. But if the team leader elevates, everybody elevates behind her. If the team leader can get in a role where she is modeling the kind of behavior that she wants to see, that really helps other people to feel very comfortable to step into that space. And if you try to teach everybody all at the same time or coach everybody all at the same time as that, and the team leader doesn't go first, others are going to be hesitant to step into these new types of behaviors or new ways of interacting with each other. So I think that modeling element becomes really, really important. Um, I also think there's actually another thing about the team coaching engagement where the team leader can really help to provide a lot of um, strategic focus to the team coaching. So this comes into kind of like the organizational inputs. If the team leader like really sees certain performance metrics or certain things as the priorities, in one-on-one coaching, those things can come out and the one-on-one coaching can help her understand how to articulate those in the context of the team coaching engagement so that they're understood and the team coaching engagement goes in the direction that she wants it to go versus it being like a complete democracy type looking thing, which is not really the reality of how most teams operate. The client service caveat I'd just like to give is um, I think that we do a lot of flexing around the way that we offer things, the timing, et cetera, to really fit the needs of the organization. So, and the needs of the person who's participating in coaching. So I would say in this case, I explore a little bit with the leader, like, okay, you don't feel like you could participate in one-on-one coaching. What do you think you could do to get these couple of things in place? And so she might be more agreeable to something that feels more like a couple of strategy sessions first, or a couple of meetings with the facilitator first, where the team coach first, in order to pull this information out of the team leader, develop a relationship. So the team leader goes, okay, I can kind of see how one-on-one coaching would be beneficial. Let's give that a try or something like that. So like working with the person based on where they are to kind of try to get them to this understanding of why it's important, I think is also a good thing to put on the table in response to this question.
In true Jessica fashion, I'll be a little bit more direct and provocative about it. I think in the vast majority of cases, it would just be a non-negotiable for us that the team leader would need to be in coaching. So I might actually draw a boundary there that if the team leader's not willing to participate in one-on-one coaching, that we're probably, I mean, I don't want to say never. There might be some set of circumstances that would make us decide differently, but I would be really hesitant about taking a team coaching engagement where the leader is not in one-on-one coaching. So I might just draw the boundary. The other more practical consideration I would offer is like, listen, if you're the leader of the team and I'm coaching your team, you and I are going to be like this anyway. Like this work isn't going to happen without a lot of your time and investment. So I'd explore this, like, what do you mean about the time commitment? Because you're already going to be making a big time commitment. We're probably going to be spending a lot of time together anyway. You were just kind of formalizing that relationship in some ways. So I think there's sort of almost like a false choice there on some level for me of like, if you don't have time for one-on-one, how are you going to have time for team coaching? Because it's going to require a lot of you, team leader. So I don't know if that helps. That's definitely a more provocative, assertive, maybe even aggressive answer, but that's kind of how I'm responding to it. And then Julia says, what about lack of team alignment? So Julia, I'm wondering if you mean if that is a potential limitation or if that's something that team coaching can work on. I guess I would take it in the sense of like, I think that team coaching can absolutely help with team alignment issues. And that would be one of the major benefits of it is that a team going through team coaching would be much more aligned as they progress through the engagement. So if I'm not interpreting your question right, let me know in the chat. But yes, 100% team alignment should improve. Great. Okay, good.
We have one question in the Q&A now. How do you prevent or manage a strong personality from dominating the group time?
In a team coaching engagement?
Yes.
Yeah. So can I take this one? One of the things that you can do in team coaching is an exercise called sociogramming. And that sounds like it's a fancier word than it needs to be for what this is. But if there is a pattern of interaction in the team that is not particularly helpful, you as the team coach can actually spend some time observing it and documenting it. So in this case of somebody dominating a team by taking up too much airtime, you could actually either, if you could do it in real time, you could do it. You might need to record a team meeting and then go back and unpack it, but you could actually evaluate how much time each person in the meeting is talking. You could look at who's talking to whom. You can sociogram silences. You can sociogram questions. But basically, you're picking some kind of aspect of the team meeting, some behavior, something that you are tracking, and you make yourself a little diagram or a chart, or whatever you need to do that. And then you present that information back to the team. You don't really form any conclusions. You don't need to write a report. You just give the data back to them and you say, what do you make of this? And you might have everybody's name down the side, and maybe you've done this in 3 meetings, and you say, in meeting number 1, I'm going to pick on Joe Essex because Joe is a good sample name. Joe talked for 15 minutes, and then Joe talked for 30 minutes, and then Joe talked for 17 minutes, something like that. And everybody else's numbers are way lower. And Joe's probably going to be like, oh, like the data is there to see. And the team, but then you're inviting the team into a conversation about the data. And there's probably other insights that are there to gain too. But that's one of the ways that's so great about team coaching, is that when you are riding along with them, watching them do their work, you can make observations and collect data that you then present back to them to raise their awareness and ask them what they want to do about it. If anything, maybe they're like, it's great, it's fine. Often that's not the case. So that's I hope that helps answer the question a little bit, that there are a lot of tools and practices you can bring in to help raise the team's awareness of their own behaviors, interactions, to then kind of move those in a more positive direction. So let me talk about this case study here. This was a client of mine, and I don't think the client is on the call today. I don't see her. But this is a really lovely client here in Charlotte that I worked with in a professional services organization. This is a family-owned business where the father was retiring and exiting, and the son was going to become the CEO. And along with that pretty significant leadership transition, there were some role changes. They had I think, at least one new person coming in, and they had elevated somebody else. So the senior leadership team of the organization was kind of taking on a new shape and a new structure because of some staffing changes and because of the CEO transition. And so I went and spent time with them once a month. I can't remember how many months we did this, maybe 6. We had a couple of hours together, and they were really working on the business during these meetings. They were working on their new organizational structure. They were working on implementing EOS, for those of you who are familiar with it. And so the meetings that I participated in, where we said these were team coaching meetings, were sort of dedicated to working on the business meetings. And so the benefit of this is that I was able to observe their interactions while they were doing the work. I also was lending my expertise to the work that they were doing in terms of org structure and EOS implementation. But the benefit of me being in the room and participating with them or coaching them while they were doing this is that it helped their own interpersonal dynamics improve. They were able to gain traction. They actually did a lot of work together with me present. So this was a really fun and productive. It was fun for me, and it was productive for them, in the sense that this leadership team and this organization, I would say, benefited from accelerating their sort of their norming, forming, storming, their forming, storming, norming process faster because they engaged outside help. And together we were able to kind of structure their work on the business stuff in a more productive way. Due to my involvement. And then I was also doing some one-on-one coaching on the side with the CEO and with some other members of the team, not everybody, but some members of the team. And so there was a lot of sort of tucking and tying going on an individual level around this as well. And that organization had a really successful CEO transition. They actually were having some financial difficulties. This was also unfolding during the pandemic. But they came out of the pandemic with a much clearer vision of where they wanted to be in the future, how they were going to get there, what was most important for them to do that. And they had some really significant wins as a result of that, and continue to do so. So that was a really great, powerful engagement. So I know we're pretty much at 1:00. You want to do the how do you want to wrap up, Anna?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you guys don't mind having a think on this, how do you know an intact team at your organization or elsewhere that could benefit from team coaching, and what do you think they would accomplish, or what would you hope they would accomplish? So I think that's worth thinking about to kind of crystallize all this. And then anybody that wants to stay on, we do have a couple of poll questions just around different scenarios. So anybody who needs to drop, we thank you so much for joining us. Anyone who can stay a couple minutes, go ahead. We'll run through these polls just for fun. We welcome any comments in the chat. We welcome emails back to us with your questions or whatever. We'd love
Your
to
feedback.
hear from all of you. Yep, whatever you liked about the webinar, whatever you hated about the webinar, etc.
Thanks, everybody.
Good to see everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Lisa, you want to put up a poll for anybody who can remain? All right, so we have a company that has a 2-day course for new leaders. They want to provide coaching to all participants in the program. Which one do you recommend? All right, universally, people are saying group coaching. I would say definitely group coaching is an option. I think one-on-one coaching is also an option, depending on whether the organization can swing it. So those are two things that you might figure out. Just as an example, we are currently for a client doing kind of a mini one-on-one coaching engagement for people who are in a leadership program. So that's the other thing about one-on-one coaching is it can be a little shorter for people who might be in this scenario or group coaching you maybe could use for a little bit longer time. Let's do the next one. This one, we've got 8-member leadership team of a senior living facility. It's trying to revamp the culture of the organization to focus on a better experience for their residents and for their team members. The team's been working together for about 4 years. What do you recommend for them?
I love how the right answer just goes boop.
Okay, so everyone's totally clear on the difference between team and group coaching, which is great. It means we achieved our goal here at this session. Yes, team coaching is what we would go for, mostly because they're trying to make a big change together as a team. So that would be one of the crucial elements here. All right, let's do another one. Technology organizations siloed, and they're noticing multiple parts of the company are developing similar technologies and processes. They want people to collaborate more across departments. They've tried all company meetings and retreats, but the silos persist. Group coaching. Love it. You guys are great. Excellent work. And let's do the last one. Team leader is frustrated with the team for missing deadlines. The leader ends up picking up the slack and is getting burnt out. The team leader wants their team to change. Totally. One-on-one coaching, which then you would hope could possibly be followed up by team coaching if that's right for the team once the team leader figures out what's going on. So those are our poll questions. We thank you so much for joining us today.
Bonus points for staying a couple minutes late and taking the quiz.
And basically getting 100% on the quiz. So A plus to everyone. We hope you reach out. We'd love to hear from all of you. We hope you join our next webinar, which should be in a couple of months. And looking forward to seeing you guys again soon sometime.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for staying. Great to see all of you. Hi, Tanya. Hi, Latoya. Hi, Knight.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, Jennifer. All right. Bye.